Peek at Sales Qualia. And what I want to do is talk to you about three things today. So, number one, I want to talk about the importance of keeping control in your sales calls and in your sales process. Number two, I'm going to teach you a very, very simple framework that you can put to work right away for every sales call, whether it's a first call that you're doing with a prospect, a customer discovery call, a demo, or even a late stage call where you're overcoming objections and technical questions. And the third thing I want to do is talk to you about how you can get some help putting some of this structure into your sales process. In fact, I'm going to quickly do number three, and then we'll come back around to it at the end, just in case you don't get through the rest of this video and segment. One of the things we're doing next week is running a sales masterclass. This is a 3-hour sales masterclass that's completely free. And what I'm going to do is teach you all of the repeatable systems that you have to get in place for your startup in order to ramp up and scale up your sales at your startup. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can just go down to the comments, or if you're listening to this later on, it's Sales Qualia, sales, QUALIA.com/masterclass, salesqualia.com/masterclass. All the details are there. Okay, so let's talk about your sales process. Why do you want to keep control? Why is that so important? And specifically, what's that framework that you can use in every sales call in order to keep control in those calls and in your sales process more broadly? So first of all, let's talk about the general broad outcome that you want to get to. So if you think about why are you out there selling your product every day? Well, of course, it's because we all want to get growth. And in order to get growth, there's really kind of three key parts to that. Number one is, of course, we need leads coming into the top of the sales funnel. Secondly, we need to be building a sales pipeline. These are, some people call them their active deals or their opportunities. And then, of course, the third piece that we need for growth are customers. And these are really simple measurements. If you think about leads, what are we typically measuring? Well, we should be measuring what's the number of, not any old lead, but what are the number of qualified leads that our sales process is bringing in? Whether that's every day, every week, every month, depending on the size and scope of your sales process and size of your sale. Maybe you just need a few leads per month. If you're selling really large deals, maybe you need a few leads per day or per week in order to support your sales growth. The second piece around pipeline, what are we measuring there? Well, we're measuring conversion rates. Now, once you have a qualified deal in your sales pipeline, what percentage of those deals are then turning into your paying customers? And then, of course, down the bottom, what are we measuring is revenue. What's your average contract value? What's your revenue per subscriber? What's your growth rate? Whatever that metric is that's most important for you, we're obviously measuring some way of looking at how much money are we bringing in. So this is where the idea of control comes in, because at the highest level, yeah, we want to get growth. We need leads and deals and customers. We need new leads coming in. We need to convert the pipeline that's coming in. We need to bring in new revenue in order to show the growth to our investors, to our advisors, to our team around us. There's really kind of at a higher level, there's three things that we're actually looking for. Number one is clarity. And the reason that's so important on the lead side is because if we have clarity on our message, that means we know who we're targeting and why we're targeting them. And our prospects know why they are getting targeted with your solution, right? The second piece is control. And this is where we're going to spend a lot of time in just a few minutes. Control means, now that I've got deals in the pipeline, how do I keep control of the sale? How do I march my prospects through our sales process so we can get them from discovery through to implementation? And then, of course, the last piece is really about confidence, which is giving your prospects the confidence to take the action so you don't have pipeline pile up, so you don't have prospects that go dark after you send the proposals. The reason oftentimes those prospects go dark is that they lack confidence. They're not yet sure that you're going to be able to come through for them. So if we're doing the right things at the end of our sales process, that will give them confidence. And when they have confidence, then we should have the confidence we deserve to have to charge the price we deserve to charge. So as much as we talk about leads and deals and conversion rates and money and all those things in the sales process, what that really comes down to is having clarity, control, and confidence. Those are the three things that every sales process needs to have, regardless of whether or not you're just trying to get your first 10 customers or you're just trying to grow your next $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Okay. So today, what I want to talk about specifically is this part. I want to talk about control. And the way I want to do that is by giving you a really simple framework that's called confirm, ask, explore. Confirm, ask, explore. So this is a very simple framework that you can use, or your salespeople can use, in every conversation. Confirm, ask, explore. This is really simple. And the way that it works is if you can imagine that the time that you have booked for a meeting is represented by this box. So whether it's a 15-minute meeting, a 30-minute meeting, an hour-long meeting, I've used this framework for a 4-hour meeting on site when we were selling large enterprise lending software to top 100 banks in the US. I use this exact framework when we were meeting with a top 10 bank in Chicago, where they had multiple C-level executives sitting around a boardroom with me, with our founders, with our head of engineering, and head of product. We use this framework to keep control of the sale and make sure that we kept control not just of that meeting, but of the next steps coming through and out of that meeting. So the way Confirm, Ask, Explore works, we're just going to use, let's just imagine we have a 60-minute meeting. So, imagine maybe this is a product demo that you're doing, or it's a little bit later stage. Maybe you're sitting down with some people on the other side of the table that are technical in nature. Maybe they've got some technical questions about your documentation or how the integration is going to work. Or maybe it's a procurement team that's got some questions about how you're going to set up and be able to implement correctly, right? There's a number of different ways you can think about that 60-minute meeting. And really what we want to do here is we want to take this entire 60-minute box and turn it and reduce it down to 3 parts. So if we divide that based on, again, thinking about this as time, what we want to do is take that first 10% of the meeting, and this is the part that we're going to call the confirm piece. The next part of your meeting is going to be about 40% of the time that you have available. And this is going to be your ask piece. And then finally, what that leaves us is the last 50% or so. And this is our explore piece. So let me explain how these 3 parts work. So the first 10 minutes, this confirm piece, all we're doing here is building trust and ultimately taking control of the conversation. What we want to do in that first 10% of the meeting. So if you got a 60-minute meeting, it's 5 minutes, maybe 10 at most. This is when we sit down and we set the agenda. And this is when you tell your prospects, hey, why are we here? What are the outcomes of this meeting? And most importantly, what has happened? What has happened? So what we're doing is confirming what happened in the last meeting or the last couple of meetings. We're also talking about why are we here, and we're confirming what will happen next coming out of this meeting if it's run successfully. So the idea is like, hey, Bob, really glad we had a chance to sit down with you again today to show you and the rest of your team how the product's going to work. Just to recap a couple things, I want to take about 5 minutes to recap where we are with things and also let you know what typically happens after a meeting like this when we work with prospects like you. In the last meeting, we said this and this and this. And today's meeting, we're going to cover this and this and this. And by the way, coming out of this meeting, what we usually find is that we're going to want, if this goes really well, we're going to want to take these next 3 steps. So just by virtue of using this confirm piece, what you've done is you've built trust, you're taking control of the meeting, you're telling them why they're in the meeting, and most importantly, you're doing what's called future pacing. Future pacing. You're letting them know what's happening next coming out of the meeting, and you're doing it at the start, so there's no surprises at the end. This is the whole point. This is what you want to do, is keep control of the sale and keep control of the meeting. So then that means that leaves you the second part of the meeting, this next 40%. This is kind of, the main reason for the meeting. You can think of it like basically like the meat and potatoes of why we're here. This is we're going to show the actual demo. We're going to run discovery calls and ask questions about their situation or their problem. We're going to ask them what their concerns are. They're going to allow them to ask questions of us. This is the main part of the meeting. And so about 40% of the meeting. So if you have a 60-minute meeting, that's about 20 to maybe 30 minutes, right? You can stretch this and, maybe band it out a little longer. Say, hey, we're going to take 5 minutes to talk about where we are and what will happen after this meeting. Then let's take about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. I know you have a bunch of questions for us. We have a few questions for you. Let's make sure we get, all of those questions on the table. Even if we don't get them all answered today, at least let's figure out what those questions are. And then finally, what that does, and this is the magical part, this is where most sales calls and most sales meetings fall flat. because regardless of whether we have 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 4 hours, what usually happens is that most times people are using the whole meeting to click through 75 features in your product and explaining why the buttons are blue. We're showing people how to log in. We're showing people to export files. Or we're going through every documentation with the engineers on the other side. And what ends up happening is that at the end of that 60-minute, it's minute 58, and we're like, oh, we're almost out of time. We got to talk about next steps. And what are they? They're shuffling their papers, or they're starting to check their calendar about their next meeting that they need to run to because they were late for your meeting. What we've done is we've lost the opportunity of keeping control. So it's our job to make sure we have enough time in the agenda to block out that time to talk about what are next steps. And this is where you introduce what I use this notation for open loops. So once you've done the middle part of the meeting correctly, and you're starting to show that there are next steps from here that you've introduced back here in the confirm piece, that's where you can very simply go, hey, Bob, listen, like we said at the start of the meeting, we have about 60 minutes. I'm just doing a quick time check. We have about 25 minutes left in our time together. I know we have a few more questions that we want to go through, and to make sure that we still have time to talk through next steps, here's what I suggest. At the start of the meeting, I mentioned that we might want to have a meeting with your procurement team. We also talked about just a few minutes ago about getting a sample data file over to us so that we can help you see how your data would look inside of our platform. We can do that analysis. And the third thing we talked about was bring in the finance person just to make sure that we're on kind of the same page when it comes to budget, pricing, and those sorts of things. So my suggestion would be, let's just take a couple minutes right now to line those things up. And then after we do that, with the time we have left, we can go back to answer as many questions that are still open, and any ones that we don't answer, then I'll be sure to follow up via email, or I can do a quick call individually with each person. How does that sound? You've just taken and kept control. So this is a very simple framework that you can use. Again, whether it's a sales discovery call, maybe it's a customer discovery call, it's a product demo. I mean, how many times have you got through a product demo and realized, like, man, we showed them everything and they went dark afterwards? Why? They said they loved it. Why? Probably because you spent 58 minutes showing the demo. You didn't leave with clear next steps. It's already hard enough to get the first meeting on the books. Don't make it so hard to get the second meeting on the books. That's where the deals die. That's where deals go dark. That's why at the end of those demos, the prospect says, send me a proposal. Because that's the easiest way for them to give you a next step, but also lets them off the hook. Because you and I both know they're not actually going to read the proposal, right? So this whole point of control in your sales process, what it comes down to is it's about taking the lead. Your prospects want to be led. They don't know how to buy your product. They've never bought your product before. They've never bought any product like it before. And the reason that they don't know what to do is, like, they know how to buy a CRM subscription. They know how to renew their license to Zoom. They know how to get new laptops issued when they get a new employee on the team. What they don't know how to do is buy your product. That's because they don't know what AI is. They don't know what machine learning is. They don't know what this new thing is. They don't have a process for buying new technology. Let's face it, you're probably replacing SharePoint or spreadsheets or a manual process of some kind, or some kind of old, outdated technology that was installed about the same time as Windows NT. They don't know. They don't have a system for buying what you're selling. So it's our job to have a process for selling so we're not at the mercy of the buyer's process for buying. And the way we do that is having a framework for every meeting, confirm, ask, explore, so we can keep control, we can future pace, and always know that we've got a meeting after this one that we're working on. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. A lot of your sales process, like I said, we're always talking about how do we get more leads? How do we get more deals? How do we get more customers? How do we build a pipeline? All of those things are important. Yes. At the end of the day, the real thing we need is clarity, control, and confidence. And what I just talked with you today about is the importance of having control and the simple framework on confirm, ask, explore. Now, like I said at the start of this video, I'm running a masterclass next week. It is at QUALIA.com/masterclass. In that masterclass, we're going to do three things. Number one, I'm going to show you all of the core systems that every startup needs to build and implement in order to get towards a repeatable, scalable sales process. Number two thing we're going to do in that masterclass is we're going to do a diagnostic of your sales process today. And we're going to go through everything from lead generation through to your product demo, through to your pricing, all the way through customer success. So you can identify exactly where you have relative strengths and where you have some gaps so that you know where to focus over the next 3 months to start system building to get towards repeatability and scalability. And the third thing we're going to do is show you and prioritize which of those systems are going to be most important for your startup in those 3 months. You might have more gaps than you can fill in those 3 months, and that's okay. Our job in this masterclass is to help you identify which of those systems are going to be the most important for you to give you the most leverage in the short run going into the next year so that you can start getting towards a repeatable, scalable sales that you want to. So you can get to the growth that you want to get to next year with your startup. Okay? So that's it for now. If you got any questions, you can go down to the if you're watching this on LinkedIn, go down to the comments down below. You'll see a link to sales.com/masterclass. If you're listening to this on the podcast, just go there right now. All of the details, the way to sign up is all right there on that page. As of the time of this recording, we have about 9 or 10 spots left in that masterclass. We're keeping it relatively small because I want it to be high interactivity, lots of conversations. It's not going to be just guy in front of the screen talking for 3 hours. I don't want that, and I know you don't want that either. So in order to make sure that we get as much interactivity, as much conversation as possible, to be able to do this personalized diagnosis of your sales process, we have to keep this class relatively small. Otherwise, we're going to end up teaching in an auditorium style. We don't want to do that. And I know you don't want that either. All right, that's it for now. Make sure you go check out that masterclass. And that's it for now. This is Scott Sambucci signing off.